Got this IS300 here. We had to do a GTE throttle by cable upper plenum conversion. We also did a fuel rail, injectors. I did the fuel lines from the rail down to the hard lines right below the firewall. Used some radium stuff, the fuel pressure regulator, AEM. Getting it kind of figured out. The guy who owns it now bought the car already swapped, and he brought it to us to do the plenum conversion, and we got to tune it, but we're dealing with a couple other issues with the car. Kind of typical stuff. Dustin's been in here trying to diagnose a bunch of stuff, figure out wiring and chasing some gremlins in it, but getting it almost ready to go on the dyno. Hopefully it'll be soon. We've got Logans 2000 Civic Si. This car's been out back for a while. Just had a built B16 in it. I'm actually about to tear these main caps off for you guys. He had the engine built. I don't know the name of the guy, his mechanic, I guess, and it's been sleeved, O-ringed, got the ARP mains in it, main girdle. His new setup is over here, which we're pretty much wrapping up. We went with a LS bottom end, obviously rods, pistons, stuff like that. It's got BC stage 2 turbo cams in it. The valve cover's not finished yet, that's why it's not on. It's covered by towels right now, but yeah, this will be the new setup. We're gonna clean everything up. Whoever built this engine, they did a bottom end build, obviously sleeved it, O-ringed it, rods, pistons, stuff like that, and the head that was on this block was pretty much the original 2000 Si head, and it wasn't. When they did the bottom end, they slapped the head on this thing, and the head was not cleaned. It wasn't checked, nothing. It looked like it had 200,000 mile oil stains on it. And we were like really surprised. They reused all of the old coolant hoses and just, you know, a bunch of little things. And it was kind of sad, because I mean he's been through a lot with this car, and you know, he's, excuse my French, but he's gotten fucked over, unfortunately. And then he found us, and hopefully we'll be his last stop. But I'm about to tear these. I want to take these mains off. A lot of people think that, especially with like the B series, you know, you can just put ARP main studs in it and just, you know, for extra insurance, and that's not always the case. If you don't do it right, it can actually cause more problems than benefits. I'm going to tear these things off for you guys. I wiggled the rods while I was up in the air, and the rods weren't loose at all, so I think it was a main bearing. So I want to tear these off for you guys to kind of show you what happens when you just throw ARP main studs in an engine when you're building it, and you don't line bore it, and you know, don't check clearances properly. Oh yeah, here we go. Not good. See that? Yeah, I think pretty much all the mains. Pretty much see that one as well. So this is a 2, 3, and 4 main cap. They're all chewed up. People think, you know, you can put ARP main studs in your engine and it's, you know, a little extra insurance, but if you don't do it right, it'll lead to more problems than what it's worth. So a lot of people don't realize and don't know that when you do ARP main studs, obviously there's a lot more, they get torqued down a lot more than the factory main bolts. So you can't just throw them in, and you know, you can't just throw standard, you know, bearings in it and torque them down and be good. That is not how it works. Of course, you know, every engine is going to be different. There's, you know, there's different tolerances and variances between block to block, but you can't just torque them down and use standard bearings, and it doesn't work like that. So when you have more clamp force, you have to account for that. So generally when you do, you know, ARP main studs, you have to line bore the block, so that'll open up your bearing, your main journals a little bit more for a little bit more clearance. And you have to check all that stuff. You can't just throw them in. This is probably what happened in this case. As you can see, looks like it's kind of been chewing away for a while. That crank's probably, yeah, it's pretty much no good at this point. Like I said, I haven't taken the rod caps off yet, obviously, but when it was up in the air, I wiggled the rod. Usually if you have a pretty ate up rod bearing, you'll feel the play in the rod if you try to jiggle it up and down, and that wasn't the case, so I pretty much assumed it was going to be the rod, or the main bearings, and sure enough. And unfortunately, we've seen this happen a few times here recently, just because whether it's, you know, from misinformation or, you know, people doing it just not knowing, and it's unfortunate to see, because Logan had this engine built not too long ago, and it didn't have that many miles on it, and he's had a bunch of stuff happen with this setup, unfortunately. And, you know, like I said, he's kind of gotten fucked over a little bit, but we're gonna fix it and get it all back together and get it running good for him. This thing is really dirty. This is how the head looked when we took the head off. Oil stained and gunked up, and it looked like it had 200,000 miles on it, and it looked like it wasn't even clean. And I'm getting like really tired of seeing this, because we have a lot of people come in, and a lot of cars come in that have gotten, you know, built like this, and just like, how did this not get cleaned? I don't understand. Still got the oil squirters in it too. Yeah, the head looked just like that. Went to go take it off, and it needed pretty much all 16 valve guides. Needed a couple valves, valve sum seals, obviously, and it was rough. And we were surprised, like how do you build something and not get the head cleaned? And I mean, I see the block wasn't cleaned either, but it got sleeved and it was O-ringed. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. I was surprised when I took the head off. It was sad. But unfortunately, that's a lot of the stuff we see from other places. I'm not going to sit here and call names or anything like that. That's not what I'm here to do. But it's unfortunate, man. Like we see this a lot. Like, just people will put a car together and just overlook like the littlest things. Like, they'll reuse the original IAC hoses or the heater hoses, and just like, why would you not replace that stuff? You know, especially if you're building the car for someone else. Like, if it's your personal car, like, okay, you can have a little bit of send it, you know, whatever. But if somebody's paying you to do this, like to build them a motor and put it in the car, do a turbo kit, like, why would you not do the things that make sense? Like replace the heater hoses. Like these hoses, like, that's easiest to do while the engine's out of the car. You don't have to fight with it. Like little stuff like that. Replace, you know, if the power steering lines were leaking, replace those. You know, clean the engine bay. Like, this wasn't cleaned at all. Every time we do an engine swap, we pressure wash the engine bay. Like, this is disgusting. All right. Popped all the pistons out, and every single side skirt is ate up. Coating completely gone. Alright guys, we're back. Today's Wednesday. I skipped yesterday because we just kind of went ham and tried to get as much done as we can. I don't want to have to stop too much to record. But yeah, today's Wednesday, and we got the engine and trans back in Logan's SI. Kind of wrapping it up. Gotta get the turbo manifold back on, make a new drain line. Gotta repaint the valve cover, do a couple of other little things. We're putting a AM wideband in it, oil pressure gauge. But yep, there's that. Hopefully it'll get started up probably today or tomorrow. This all depends on what we run into today. Got Nicks Integra over here, trying to figure out an issue with it. We just tuned this car and did a couple little things to it. I had to switch the turbo manifold. It was boost creeping real bad, and just came back. It's having a sputtering issue, as you can see. And I think we're about to pull the injectors out and check those. We've got Jeffs Supra, finished the exhaust on that and the wastegate dump. Sit down there nice and tight. A little dark down there. I don't know if you can see down there where the wastegate dump is, but Got a couple more things on this. We're still waiting on a few things from Haltech, like I mentioned before, but she's almost there. All right, we got Nicks injectors in the machine. I'm gonna go ahead, see if they work.
Well, called it.
Wasn't expecting that.
Oh God.
Alrighty, we're back. It's been a few days. I was busy. We've all been busy. A lot of shit happened. Alright. Last time I left off, I think Logan's car was actually over here. Motor's in. Everything's pretty much done. Don't have a catch can or any crankcase ventilation on this right now, so we're not leaning on it real hard. But everything is in. Pretty much wrapped up. We got a couple little things to do on it. Dustin just started tuning it this morning. So yeah, we're super excited. Logan, like I said before, Logan went through a lot with this car. He got kind of screwed over a couple times, and whether it's bad luck or, you know, people being ignorant, unfortunately, he's kind of at the point where he told me, at least, that he just kind of wants to sell the car and start over on something new. So our goal was to kind of get the car back to him and get it everything right 100%, and we want him to be so happy with it that he decides to keep the car instead of sell it. So who knows, we'll see what happens. IS300, it just actually came off the dyno actually yesterday afternoon. We had to figure out a couple of wiring things with it. We had to add in the fuel pressure. Actually, it wasn't too bad on the dyno. We didn't run into too many issues. Just a little stuff. Normally we run into, you know, 15 or 20 issues, but luckily this car wasn't too bad. Kind of getting everything wrapped up. I had to tidy up the ECU wiring this morning. Dustin is currently fixing some more wiring. This is the fuel pump hanger. The pins and the wires going into the plug were pretty much completely gone. Somebody had tried to repair it before, and it didn't.
That's what we found, but it was literally holding on by one strand to that plug there.
He was getting ready to, we took it out because we have to calibrate the fuel sending unit to Haltech so it can read the fuel level correctly, and when we go pull it out and the pin just pulled out. Somebody tried to fix it before, but it didn't hold. What did this car make, if you remember?
Almost 400 and then like 350 torque.
Yeah, still has the stock twins on it. We don't know how much longer they're going to last because, you know, the stock twins with the ceramic wheels, sometimes they don't live. But there's that. Hopefully it'll be going home soon as we get this little issue fixed. And we got to drive it and make sure she's all good. Jeffs Supra. Got the exhaust all finished up. I mentioned to you guys before, we dropped this whole swap out, did all the maintenance on it, resealed pretty much the entire engine, did cams, valve train, single turbo conversion. Transmission got sent off to ATF and got built. It's like 98% done right now. We're waiting on transmission fluid. I just charged the AC. I just pressure tested the cooling system. It's good. I put coolant in it. It's got the bleeder on it. Had to run a couple vacuum lines, bunch of little stuff, but it's like this close. Exhaust is officially done. Yeah, we had to fabricate a new downpipe, dump tube, and this whole midsection right here. Yeah, it looks really good. It's nice and tucked up in there. Flows really good. I see a lot of people like to use like a shit ton of pie cuts, and I try to not use pie cuts if I can help it. When I first started kind of doing fabrication and, you know, exhaust mock-up and, you know, stuff like that, I used to use a lot of pie cuts, and then Dustin didn't like me too much for that when he went to go weld the stuff up. Like, all right, I'm gonna, you know, get better and better, and so I don't have to use as many pie cuts. I'm getting pretty good, but yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much the update right now. This is kind of a rare sight to see. The shop is like super empty right now, but we have some more stuff coming. Jake is bringing his Datsun 280 in, supposed to be dropping it off Friday. It's a really nice car. We're going to be doing a 2JZ CD009 swap in it. This is actually his drivetrain. Alrighty, so we finally got the last few things we needed for Jeffs Supra. We started it up yesterday, did a leak check, changed the oil, did the cam braking procedure, topped out the transmission fluid. Dustin's trying to figure out one of the wires. Trying to figure out which wire for overdrive, right? Yeah, so we can wire that in, and we got to put that on a relay. We had to swap and repin and do a bunch of different wiring for this, for the Haltech jumper harness. It wasn't fun at all. I guess there was a little bit of miscommunication between us and the guy who made the engine harness and the guy who made the Haltech adapter harness. So we had to swap like 20 or 30 wires or some crap like that. So Dustin's been fighting with that for the past couple days. But it's almost there. Hopefully we'll get on the dyno today, right?
Yep, that's the plan.
Hopefully. Besides that, today I am actually working on the Snow Bunny, corn-fed Snow Bunny. In case you guys don't know, this is Dustin's car. It's pretty much our kind of shop car that we built. Corn-fed Snow Bunny, right-hand drive from Japan. Tucked and shaved bay. It's covered up right now. What I'm doing is so when we built this car, did the engine bay probably about 3 years ago, we pretty much had the car stripped down to nothing and took the heater core out, and we put AN fittings right here on the heater core outlets so we can run AN lines. And this is the a lot of you will know, this is the press fitting that goes between the valve covers in the back. That's one of the coolant fittings. We put an AN line on that as well, but we just pressed it back in, and it hasn't had, you know, super good seal since we did that. So what I'm doing today is I'm taking the lines out, taking that fitting out, and I'm gonna drill and tap threads into the head back here so we can put one of these fittings in there. So instead of just being pressed in, it's actually threaded in. It's going to seal, so we don't have to worry about it leaking, and it's extended, so it's going to be easier to get to. But yeah, we've been putting this off for like probably a year or so. It would like leak and then stop leaking and then leak again. So now Dustin's like, all right, I need to fix it. After like a year of dealing with it, one of these fittings, this fitting is also leaking as well. So I'm going to take that out, put a new fitting on this. Probably going to do both new lines and put it back together. So it's a little bit kind of hard to get to back there. I'm gonna have to probably put a fitting back on that and then use a slide hammer to try to tap it out. It's kind of loose, but it's not loose enough to where I can just pull it out with my hands. So it's gonna be a little hard to get to, but yeah, that's what we're doing today. Got a little bit of downtime, not too much, but need to get it taken care of anyway. Hopefully, like I said, we can get that on the dyno later, start tuning it. I'm excited for that because that car's been sitting on the rack for the past month. I've been waiting on unpredicted predicaments.